trying to understand the reality of a day spent in a child care program, of what it's like to be a caregiver, working sometimes an 8 or a 9 hour day with very young children, being responsible for as many as 4 babies up to 10 preschoolers, who are very active kids, how exhausting that can be both physically and emotionally. And if you then come in and superimpose some rule over that individual that says, well, you must do this, this, and this, you may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. You could really kind of push it over the edge.
In the United States, caregivers struggle to cope with how they're valued and perceived by society. They are teachers of young children, but are often thought of as babysitters. While many caregivers are high school graduates, the average educational level for caregivers is 2 years of college. Some have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and doctoral degrees. In addition, most caregivers receive in-service training. No matter what their skills and training, many caregivers receive low wages, have difficult working conditions, and few benefits. Many caregivers earn wages close to the poverty level, and many do not have health insurance. The economics of childcare lead to high turnover rates. At least a third of childcare teachers and around half of childcare aides leave their jobs each year. Since children benefit from continuous relationships with the adults in their lives, the lack of money to pay providers hurts children in child care. There is no question, improving the quality of care requires increasing the cost to levels that are beyond the resources of many families. Expecting all families to shoulder the financial burden of early education themselves is inconsistent with current policy to subsidize education beginning in grade school. With growing awareness of the lifelong importance of early childhood experiences in brain development, the availability of tax-funded, employer and other privately subsidized child care has recently increased. But financial help still only reaches a small portion of those who need it. Hopefully, public policymakers will soon focus on a comprehensive financing plan to provide quality care for all eligible children. Meanwhile, child care health consultants have to recognize the realities of child care today and identify ways to improve within existing restraints. Everyone involved in the care of young children will need to do what they can to raise awareness of what is involved in providing competent early education. Let's look at the first couple of hours in the life of a director of a mid-sized program with 45 children, ranging in age from infant through 5 years of age. 6:15 a.m. at home. The phone rings. Mrs. Sherwood has the flu. She's feeling very ill, and though she wants to come to work, she'll likely miss at least the next 2 days. She's one of 2 caregivers working with infants. This means trying to find a substitute or maybe filling in if a sub isn't available. 7 a.m. Arrive at center. Discover refrigerator door was not properly closed at the end of the day. The food is spoiled. The director will need to buy milk and food before lunch. 7:40 a.m. Mrs. Bynum drops off her son and alerts the director that her ex-husband has lost visitation rights and is no longer authorized to pick up their son. The director needs to alert all staff who might be involved in releasing this child. 7:50 a.m. Mrs. James, a single mom who delivers mail for the post office, brings her toddler twins and mentions that one of them had a fever last night, but seems to be okay this morning. The director checks how to reach Mrs. James during the day and asks her to alert the toddler's caregiver about the children's symptoms and what the twins ate and drank since last evening. 8 a.m. The director has a meeting with a parent who is thinking about enrolling her child at the center. The parent reluctantly mentions that her child has been in another child care facility But the child's biting behaviors cause so much trouble that she has been asked to remove her child. 8:15 a.m. The director is supposed to leave the center for a meeting at the licensing department to find out about proposed changes in the regulations for staff training that will apply to the caregivers in child care centers. Since no substitute for the infant caregiver is available, she goes to the infant classroom to assume the caregiver's duties herself. As a child care health consultant, it's important to understand that child care work is almost always physically and mentally demanding. Early childhood educators are professionals with a respected body of expertise to share with families. The terminology of early childhood educators may differ from that of health professionals. For example, early childhood professionals prefer the term toilet learning to toilet training. The approach is similar, focusing on helping the child achieve self-mastering rather than using coercion. Also, early childhood professionals prefer the terms child care or early care and education instead of daycare, because the service involves the inseparable functions of care and education of children, and it may also include evenings or overnight arrangements. Many adults who work in child care classrooms prefer to be called teachers.